All right, deep divers, you ready to get philosophical?
Always. Hit me with your wisdom.
Okay, so today we're diving deep into Stoicism, but like with a twist.
Ooh, like where this is going. Lay it on me.
We're talking all about what the Stoics would have to say about privacy, in our very oversharing world.
Interesting.
Sure.
Because let's face it, sometimes less is more.
Exactly. So no need to go full hermit mode, but maybe think twice before you hit post on that rant about like your burnt toast.
You're telling me.
Eh.
But what's funny is that the two sources we're looking at today, both of the videos from Stoicism Everyday and Stoic Journal,
Yeah.
they both talk about this connection, this link between Stoicism and, well, keeping some things to yourself. In fact, they both home in on these three things that the Stoics were really private about.
Okay, I am intrigued. Give me the top secret Stoic intel. What were the big three no-nos when it came to sharing?
Well, get this. It's fears, failures, and finances. It's like the Stoic trifecta of secrets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or,
Fears, failures, and finances.
Yes.
Like, they knew social media was coming and wanted to give us a heads up or something. But seriously, why those three things? What's the Stoic wisdom there?
well, it goes back to that whole thing about focusing on what you can control.
Mhm.
And our world is obsessed with, likes and comments and how much money you make. The Stoics were on to something back then.
Right.
But Stoicism, it kind of says, hold on a sec. Those things, they can change in a heartbeat.
Totally.
They're not entirely up to you. Your fears, your past mistakes, those can really mess you up if you let them, define you.
I feel that. It's like, don't give your power away by putting it all out there for everyone to see. It's kind of like when you tell everyone your big goal and then, well, life happens and you don't quite get there. Suddenly you're dealing with everyone else's opinions on top of your own, let's be honest, disappointment.
Exactly. The Stoics had this great analogy for it, actually. The Stoicism Everyday video, it talks about this idea. Imagine you're like a sculptor, right? And you're working on this masterpiece. You wouldn't invite the whole world to your studio,
Yeah.
to watch every single chisel stroke.
Yeah.
You'd want to protect that process, the space, to mess up and try again, to, reveal it when it's actually ready.
I love that. So it's less about being secretive and more about protecting your process, your peace of mind, and that ability to do your own thing without feeling like you're always on stage.
You've got it. And this idea of protecting your inner world, it's not just art, it's bigger than that. It's our relationships, it's our dreams, even our happiness.
Okay, now you're really speaking my language. I am all about that happiness factor. Tell me more about what the Stoics had to say about happiness and privacy, because for me, those two things don't always go together.
Well, it's funny you should mention happiness, because that's one of those things, right, that we're basically told to shout from the rooftops these days.
All right, live your best life, #bless.
Yeah, exactly. But the Stoics, they saw a bit of a downside to all that,
Really? Okay, now that is a twist I was not expecting. I thought happiness was like the universal good. Explain yourselves, ancient philosophers.
It's not that they were against happiness, not at all. But they were onto something about, well, constantly looking for other people to validate it.
Yeah.
It's like it can actually take away from the experience.
I've never thought of it like that.
Right. Think about it.
Okay.
If you always need everyone else to tell you you're happy,
Yeah.
are you actually genuinely feeling it?
Wow, that is so true when you put it like that.
Or are you just, I don't know, performing, putting on a show a little?
It's like that pressure to take the perfect vacation photo.
Yes.
Suddenly you're like more worried about Instagram than actually enjoying the beach.
Exactly. And not just that, but, they also talked about how openly sharing your happiness can sometimes backfire a little.
What do you mean?
Well, it can bring unwanted attention, maybe even make other people resent you, especially in a world where everyone's dealing with their own stuff,
That is deep. It's like that whole thing about interconnectedness, right?
Yeah,
Maybe sometimes too much sharing throws things off balance.
it can.
Okay, so I get it. Protecting your inner world is key. But what about relationships, friendships, all of that? They weren't saying to go full isolation mode, were they?
No, not at all. They weren't saying to become a hermit and live in a cave.
Okay, good to know.
It was more about being intentional,
Yeah.
with what you share and who you share it with.
Okay, so spill the Stoic tea. Who makes the cut for the inner circle?
Well, they were big on choosing people who are trustworthy, supportive,
Gotcha.
the kind of people who are really going to listen
Makes sense.
without judging you and just offer genuine advice, not just like empty platitudes,
Quality over quantity.
100%. And they even talked about being careful about oversharing in romantic relationships.
Really? Okay, now that is interesting. Why keep things private in a love connection? Isn't that where you're supposed to be your most vulnerable?
Vulnerability is important for
Right.
sure.
Right.
But the Stoics would say constantly broadcasting your relationship, airing
Yes.
your dirty laundry online, it can cheapen things.
Interesting.
Lets in outside opinions that don't matter, creates unnecessary drama.
Oh, 100%.
It can even make you feel pressure to present this picture-perfect image that's not even real.
Wow, it's like they predicted social media and all its pitfalls.
It's wild, right?
Mhm.
They just knew. And you know what else they knew about? Something else we still deal with today.
What's that?
Politics.
Oh, boy.
Sharing those political hot takes, that's a whole other ball game.
So, what's the verdict? Should we be sharing our political hot takes online or keeping those to ourselves? What did the Stoics say?
Well, they didn't really take sides on any particular issues,
Right, of course.
but they did point out how tricky it can be to share those views publicly.
Which, yeah, I mean, in this day and age, talk about a recipe for disaster, right?
It can be.
It's like, what's that saying? Never argue with someone on the internet.
Right.
You'll either lose brain cells or gain like 100 new enemies.
Exactly. It's so easy to get caught up in the moment to, maybe say things you regret later on.
Tell me about it. I've definitely had to hit that unsend button a few times.
The Stoics would probably say, pick your battles and be careful about making them online.
Wise words for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so after this deep dive, I'm feeling inspired to be a little more mindful of what I share, but how do we actually put this into practice? Like, how do we find that balance between being open and, not oversharing to the point where we become totally closed off?
Well, both videos had some really practical tips.
Uh-huh.
One that really stood out to me was this idea of the inner circle test.
Go what?
The inner circle test. So before you share something, something kind of personal or maybe controversial,
Yeah.
ask yourself, would I be okay with everyone in my closest circle knowing this?
Ooh, I like that. Like a little gut check before you hit post or send.
Exactly. If the answer is no, maybe keep it to yourself.
So simple, but so smart.
And then there's the Marcus Aurelius challenge.
Now that sounds intimidating. What is that?
It's really not, actually.
Okay.
Basically, anytime you're tempted to overshare, just pause and ask yourself, what would Marcus Aurelius do?
I love that. Okay, I'm imagining Marcus Aurelius with like his own little Instagram account, and he's all about the inspirational quotes, maybe a beautiful sunrise photo.
Totally.
But like definitely no ranting about, whatever the chariot racing drama was back then.
Exactly. It's about bringing that Stoic wisdom into our own lives.
Okay, I love that. I need that on a t-shirt or something. What would Marcus Aurelius do?
Right. It really makes you think. One of the most powerful things I took away from this was just the reminder that real strength, it often comes from within,
How so?
You don't need an audience for every single thing you go through.
Yeah.
Sometimes the biggest victories are the ones that happen quietly,
Hmm.
inside ourselves.
That is so well said. This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive, I have to say.
It really has.
It's amazing how relevant this ancient philosophy still is today.
I know. It really makes you think.
It does. Big thanks to our listener for sending in these awesome videos. And listeners, we want to hear from you. What are your Stoic secrets? How do you find that balance between opening up and protecting your privacy? Head over to the comments and let us know. Until next time, may your journey be filled with wisdom and maybe just a little bit more Stoic silence.